Hello, and welcome to Totally Schway, a podcast about the DCAU and whatever the hell else I want it to be about. My name is Mary.
And my name is Luke.
Let's talk about us for a little bit.
Oh, just for a minute. Instead of the news. Here, actually, social news, yeah.
So, as we know, Luke, whenever he's sick, it's like everything in the world is just only him being sick. And I get sick yesterday because he was sick. But here's the deal. I had a flu shot, and I think that's what's helped me. And also, I have been painting the bathroom, and I was sweating a lot. So I think that also helped.
Yeah, whereas I've been sick for nearly a week.
Maybe you should go, get a flu shot.
Well, maybe I will next time.
So that's what we've been up to recently. There isn't any news today. Unfortunately, they haven't. Todd still hasn't watched my video on Mary Susan Mears, and I have lost hope that the Todd father will ever make a giant Lois Lane bed. So I'm gonna have to do it myself. I'm gonna have to make a giant Lois Lane bed. So today we are going to talk about the Underdwellers.
Yeah.
I know Luke keeps saying the Forgotten. He just mentioned that before we started recording, but
Yeah,
it's the Underdweller.
I don't know why I keep... Whenever I write... I've written a video about the Sewer King, and at least twice in that script I referred to it as the Forgotten. I was like, no, that's the one where Bruce Wayne gets amnesia and gets taken to that slave camp just outside of Gotham in some mine with Boss Biggis.
At least one person is going to say, nope.
Well, I caught the mistake and I fixed it before anyone saw it. But anyway, it's just a thing with me. In case you ever hear me randomly talk about the Forgotten and the Sewer King, I mean the Underdwellers.
I'm so happy that my voice isn't weird like it was this morning.
Uh-huh.
I think, you know what? Screw everything else. It was the Diet Coke.
The Diet Coke helped you with
the
healing properties of Diet.
Obviously. Splenda. Oh, I haven't had Splenda. Maybe I have. I don't remember. So, the Underdwellers. On our lovely rewatch, we're still rewatching it. We're doing maybe 2 episodes a night, but some nights we just don't. We don't, because life and not enough time in the day. And I want to watch some American Dad, because if I watch American Dad, I'll end up going to sleep. Whereas if I'm watching Batman, oh, hey, I did my standing thing today.
Yeah.
If I watch Batman, I'll be too invested. And I'll be like, oh, okay, another one. And that's why I think I'd be a terrible gambler as well. Because another one, I could say that very, very easily. And check. So, why don't you describe the Underdwellers?
All right, so there is a spate of robberies taking place in Gotham where the perpetrator appears to be a leprechaun.
Oh no.
Batman tracks the thief or thieves down, I suppose, and they're actually children in green cloaks that have come out of the sewers. And turns out that beneath Gotham City there is a kingdom ruled by the Sewer King, who is like this Fagin Captain Hook style guy who is enslaving orphaned and abandoned children. He claims that he's teaching them a trade and giving them a better life than they had on the surface, and all he asks is that they obey his rules. And one of his primary rules is no talking. Children should be seen, not heard, etc., etc.
Not today.
And if they don't abide by his rules, then he has some interesting forms of discipline. One of them is locking them in a light room, which is basically like a cupboard with some fluorescent lights, but it's incredibly bright compared to the darkness of the sewers that the children are used to, and so the light hurts their eyes.
And it's not hue lights. Let's be completely 100 about that. It's not like Philips hue lights where you can say, oh no, that's too bright. Oh no, damn. No, it's not like that. It's like the old 1991, you look up and the teacher is trying to help the maintenance man at school put the light bulb back in, then when it comes on, you're like, ah!
Gives you a suntan just by looking at it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and the sewer king lives in comparative luxury compared with the children.
Yeah.
The children live in like bunks, and they spend the day trying to keep the place clean. Which, you know, it's a sewer. That's not really something you can do. Yeah, that's right. They basically are his servants. They forage for mushrooms in the sewage, which is really gross now that I think about it more.
I mean, that's what the trouble is, isn't it?
Well, I suppose so, but they don't necessarily grow in human excrement, you know.
Yeah, ew.
But the sewer king, I mean, he's not exactly clean and healthy, but, you know, compared to those kids, he's living a lavish lifestyle, eating roasted meat and drinking booze out of a chalice. I think it's an odd episode because it was one of those very early scripts that was written to have a message.
Mm-hmm.
Like, very deliberately have a message. A lot of the BTAS episodes have messages, but they're kind of
not as obvious.
Yeah, not as obvious. Yeah.
So in this, you have obviously what the main part of the story is that this guy is taking advantage of these children.
Yes.
He's treating them like servants, and then Batman catches one of the leprechauns.
Yes.
And he finds out it's a child, and then the child obviously doesn't want to speak, obviously, because I keep saying obviously, sorry. He doesn't want to speak to Batman because he's been told not to speak. Mm-hmm. So he has to communicate in different ways. And what's cool is that he's talking to a detective. So Batman pretty much gets it. And he feels a soft spot for these children because obviously it's Batman, and children in need and children that are being taken advantage of or being hurt or missing or anything like that. He is always going to... This is one of the times where Batman actually, like, I saw Batman... Is this the one where he actually just punches him in the face?
No, he doesn't punch him. He dives on him and knocks him onto the train tracks.
Yeah. And this is one of those, you know, the first times that you actually see that sort of anger from him that's coming from a place that feels familiar.
Yeah, like if in earlier episodes, like when he confronted the Scarecrow, like he wasn't angry.
He was like, huh?
Well, yeah, a little bit. He kind of took a little bit of pleasure in scaring him, actually. Yeah. When he confronts the Joker, you know, he kind of laughs at him at this point. Yeah. When he confronted Clayface, he was compassionate, offering to help him. Mm-hmm. But when he confronts the Sewer King, who is just this odious man who's been exploiting children, Batman literally says to him, you know, I don't pass judgment, that's for the courts. But this time, I'm very tempted to do the job myself.
Yeah, this is, if you're watching this in any type of order, this is really the first time that you see that anger, and it's beautiful. I have to say that, and I know I say that about Kevin Conroy's acting and everything every time I talk about him, but it is so beautiful that you feel that, and that's the message for me, is that, oh wow, some grown-ups do care. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Grown-ups don't just ignore people or you know, just, you know, brush something off because, you know, whatever. Some grown-ups care. Mm-hmm. And Batman cares. Bruce cares.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny to see. So there are a couple of things in this episode that don't resonate with me. Just because, you know, they felt either shoehorned or they happen just because the plot needs them to. So, for instance, when Batman brings the boy Frog to the Batcave.
Frog, that's his name.
Yes. Well, that's the name he's been given by the Sewer King. Yeah, I know you did. Yeah. That was his nickname, not his actual birth name. But anyway, Alfred is like, I don't know anything about raising children. And we're like, actually, come on. Alfred does. He raised Bruce, and he raised...
child.
He raised Dick Grayson as well.
Yeah.
So he knows all about it. That's one thing where I'm like, I hear that line and I go, pish posh. Yes, he does. The other thing, at the start of the episode, there's a scene with two teenage boys on top of a train. Yeah. Playing a game of chicken to see who jumps off first.
That's stupid.
Yeah, it is stupid. It feels completely shoehorned in. And the reason why it feels completely shoehorned in is because it was. When I got access to the storyboards for this episode, and that section wasn't there in those storyboards, in that draft of them. The episode was supposed to open with the shot of the train coming across the bridge, or the elevated track, I suppose, going into Gotham. But I guess the runtime was a little bit short, so they felt the need to add something in. And I can't say with 100% certainty who chose to put in like a PSA style.
Bob?
I'm
just going to say
No, it's
guy Bob.
To be fair, it was the story editor on that episode was Sean Catherine Derrick, so she probably was the one.
Just blamed it on somebody named Bob.
There are people named Bob that worked on it. I don't know about any Freds on there. All right, it was Freddie's fault. Yeah. God damn it, Freddie. But it's... I really don't like it. Like, Batman says something along the lines of, you played chicken enough and you fry.
Oh my god, it totally reminded me of, like, something that you would hear on, like, a Nickelodeon show.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I mean, no, I don't hate the Nickelodeon shows. I didn't watch them, and I did not care for that. That's not kind of kid show I want.
Yeah, it's like the message at the end of He-Man or basically all of G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
You know, remember what we learned today, kids. Don't go live in the sewers with a strange Captain Hook-like Fagin man with an eye patch.
And if you're gonna wear a cloak, make it look red so you can be like Bilbo Baggins.
Yeah, I remember that all the time.
Yeah, obviously. I don't know why I like this episode so much.
Well, I mean, I like it to a certain extent as well.
I like it more than, say, some of the more popular episodes. Mainly, really? I think it's... Well, actually, I do know why I like it more.
Go on,
because it is what I said earlier. It is the fact that a very important grown-up saw a problem and didn't say to themselves, oh, somebody else will do that. Somebody else will fix that problem. Whatever. That's because Bruce and Batman want to fix the problem, because who else is going to do it? And who's going to do it the correct way? And what he does is, obviously, he has a little bit of a showdown with the Sewer King and the alligators. But at the end, you see that those kids are being taken out of there, and you know for a fact that Bruce is going to kick in.
Well, you hope that is what's going to happen. Because there is a scene where after Frog is gone and the Sewer King notices, he says to the group of children there, he's like, I look after you, I take care of you. Do you actually want to be taken away? Do you want to leave here? Do you want to go back to the surface, back to the people who hurt you? And you see the children start crying and they shake their head, going, no, they don't want to. Now, they never explicitly say where these children have come from, but you can fill in the blanks yourself.
Yeah.
And not to spoil my video about the Sewer King too much, because that's coming out. Well, members can watch it already. Everyone else can watch it on Friday.
Friday.
Yeah, but the system had failed these children already. I hope that Bruce Wayne is intervening now to make sure that the system doesn't let them down again.
Yeah, because it obviously with Batman, a lot of the writers take things from real life experiences.
Yes.
Whether through themselves or things that they've seen on TV or have experienced through other people. And at this time was when I first heard about the nationwide problem of kids not having enough.
Yeah.
Whether whatever you want it to be, what enough is. I knew in my personal life what enough wasn't, but I didn't know that there were thousands,
maybe millions,
tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of children out there that have absolutely nobody. And it kind of gets into your empathy. And as a child, when you're watching this, you're still kind of figuring what empathy is, like what your sort of, how empathetic you actually are. And although I don't remember watching this episode, I can feel how little Mary would have felt, and confused, related. Obviously, I didn't, wasn't kidnapped or taken away or anything,
except for by me.
but I was without certain things, and I probably would have felt like, oh, there are others out there, and stuff like that. And it's that's one of the really, there are millions of things I love about BTAS and the DCAU, but one of the main things is it takes real world problems and it explains it to children and young adults in a way that does not dumb it down and does not talk down to them. It is a show and tell rather than I'm just going to talk to you.
Yeah.
And this is what this episode did for me. And as an adult watching it, obviously I feel how I've just said, I am so grateful that we got to experience this TV show as children. But I'm also grateful that we have things like Blu-rays or, Netflix, HBO, and stuff like that, because now we can show younger people these, like, if we wanted to, we could show our nieces and our nephew, and they would probably enjoy it just as much as we did, because the messages are still the same. There's no, it's still the same, which is, it kind of sucks, really, that it's still the same, but I think it doesn't age, if that makes sense. Like the topics don't age. Well, not all of them. And I just can't get over how incredibly beautiful some of these storylines were. And this one, although it's, style-wise, it's not one of my favorites, but it is such a beautiful message, and I like that a lot.
You said, I think it was after we watched this episode, you said something like, that may not be the best episode of Batman, but compared to the other cartoons of the time, it was amazing.
Yeah, I said something like that. So it goes on to what I was just talking about, is how it's a show and tell rather than a talking down to or talking to.
Yeah, talking at.
Because I'm going to go a bit into my personal life now. When I was in school, it was DARE, and I think I've talked about DARE, which I actually liked talking about DARE and stuff like that for reasons I won't get into right now. But I also hated going to some of the assemblies about other things like violence and stuff like that, because a lot of these people that were guests at our schools did not encourage questions. They just said, this is what it has to be, and this, and this, and this. And I'm like, well, I have questions because what you've said, a lot of people do understand, but I don't. Like, I understand that violence is terrible and it's like the worst thing that you could probably do, but I want to know why some people do it. And all of that. And it was different when I went to an alternative school because we actually got to communicate. And that's how I feel about Batman and the DCAU. Is it's like the alternative school of 90s cartoons. I hope I'm making sense here, but it is one of those things where they did not leave. You did not leave, whether you're watching in the morning or the afternoon, you did not leave wanting to ask more questions about the actual topic that they were talking about. You left wanting to know more about the show, and questions that you just, like, how can I help, basically, rather than, I wonder why, or something like that. I'm trying to make sense here.
You did? You did.
You did.
You did, yes. I sounded like Brian Butterfield then. It's just I've got a cold. You don't know who Brian Butterfield is, do you?
No.
It's a character from a Peter Serafinowicz sketch. Brian Butterfield.
Can I just say, I can never say his last name.
Serafinowicz.
It's one of the coolest last names.
I believe it's Polish.
It's one of the cool. Like, I've heard it many times, but it's just every time I hear it, I'm like, damn, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So yeah, any other thoughts on I nearly said the Forgotten Men, on the Underdwellers? Do you know, let's briefly talk about the Sewer King. So I know I've got a video going about him specifically.
Okay, I don't think you want me to say what I said when we were watching this.
What did you say? You have
What he looked like.
I don't recall.
Okay, so if you have a look at Sewer King, and then you look at someone named Jimmy Savile.
Oh yeah,
they have. I think it's the hair.
He's got black hair though.
I know, but like it's the kind of.
I know. I just hear the Sewer King. The performance by Michael Pataki was very good. He had a very. Oh my god! Yeah, I mean, I suppose Jimmy Savile, a very unique way of speaking. Yeah. You. Yeah. Instead of now then.
I know they didn't have like the exact same facial things and ever, but whoever did the drawings on this, I don't know if they were British or not, but
they weren't.
They were very much the expressions that I have seen from on documentaries of Jimmy Savile.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's about it. That's not it.
I mean, I think you're also making that connection because it relates to children as well.
But it's the main reason I said that is because like the hair and everything, it just reminded me of that sort of era of comedy type thing and all that.
Yeah, and the thing with the Sewer King as well is he genuinely thinks he's a good person, and he's just so deluded and selfish. Like, he talks, he's very kind to the alligators that live in the sewers. Again, those are discarded creatures that, presumably were flushed down the toilet, and he looks after them. They're his pretties. And they love him.
Yeah.
Like, they let him stroke him, and when he falls in the water, they make sure he doesn't drown, even though there's no chance that he would anyway.
You say that, and I was drinking my 7-Up today, and I was like, I need to stop drinking this so fast because I'm going to drown.
Yeah, nearly drowned in a mouthful of 7-Up.
I didn't choke, but I was like, I could. So you said something about him being, like, delusional.
Yeah.
So I am one of those people that I read a lot about, like, missing people and stuff like that. I'm not, like, one of those people that, like, are true crime obsessed, but there's a specific thing that happened when I was a child. There was this, it was in my town. It was literally about a 3-minute walk away from my house. This girl named Kristen Renee Hatfield was kidnapped. And I think because of that, I read a lot about kidnappings and stuff like that, because I want to read about them actually being found, because she was never found. Mm-hmm. And in reading all of that, most of those people that have kidnapped other people don't think that they're bad people. A lot of them do think that they are the fix. Mm-hmm. That they're fixing the kids or the people, not always just children. And that's something that they really captured in this. And it was funny in a way, in the peculiar way, and also the funny haha way, because, again, it's a kid show, and you're talking about a very, very serious topic, like kidnapping. And around this time, so this was about, 92, 93?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 92.
Yeah, and then a couple years after that, you have some really big things happen in the world in terms of like kidnapping and stuff like that. And then kids know about these things because of like BTAs and stuff. They're like, oh, yeah, that's not a good thing. They're not going to be like, they're not at grandma's house. Somebody actually took them. So yeah. It got pretty deep.
Yeah, and it's kind of ironic, really, that it was written by the team that wanted to make a more child-friendly show. full of messages.
Really?
Yeah.
That team.
Yeah, so it was kind of when the show started, I think it would be fair to say that there were kind of two halves in the creative team. There was
Sniffle.
the people led by Bruce Timm and Eric Radomski, who wanted to make a comic accurate Batman show.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had Sean, Catherine Derrick, and Lauren Bright, who were hired by the studio to kind of rein them in a little bit, make some more traditional kids' cartoons. For anyone that doesn't know, Sean, Catherine Derrick, I believe she's at least the co-creator of Captain Planet. I know she definitely wrote on it. And she worked on the Smurfs extensively, so that's the kind of show that she worked on.
Can I say something here?
Yes, you may.
I think you know what I'm going to say. I don't like either of their shows.
No, I mean, I don't either, but, they have their audience.
How they were made, it's because of the topics. It's how the topics were dealt with, because, again, we're going to tell you how this happens.
Yeah.
We're going to tell you why this happens, and we're going to tell you what not to do, but no questions.
Yeah, and the thing is that Sean, Catherine Derrick, I'm just going to call her Sean from now on. I know why people call her Sean, Catherine Derrick. It's to make clear that she's a woman.
Lady.
But yeah, Sean Derrick, she wanted to convey social messages through her shows. And that was exactly what Alan Burnett and Bruce Timm and Eric Radomski did not want. So when Alan Burnett was hired, he basically put a stop to all of that, apart from a few cases where, like, I've got Batman in my basement. I recently learned that he greenlit that episode to placate the studios and to show them that their ideas around having, like, kids in Batman stories was not a good idea.
We will talk about that at some point.
Yes, we will.
It just when it deals with children, and this episode didn't do it in a obviously it's creepy because of the Sewer King, but with something like Batman in my basement, the way that they did that one, how completely different it was.
Yes,
it was creepier because you have this adult man who's unconscious in a kid's basement, and the mom is just like so overwhelmed with everything, with life probably.
I'm going to the store, dear.
Yeah, and you have some other people trying to like do bad things, and it's like, it's so creepy. It's so creepy, and it would also make kids think that they could do that.
Well, yes, little children home aloning it against the penguin was just... I'm sure describing it some way will make some people think it sounds amazing, but no, it's not good at all. I
was a grandparents' kid. I grew up with my grandparents, and because my grandparents were done raising children, they were like, you know what, you're 8 years old, stay home by yourself. There were weekends where I was just home alone by myself. I think because I would watch Batman and Aeon Flux, I was like, I am not gonna home alone this, because I know that I don't have enough marbles, for one.
Yeah.
And two, I don't have skills, so it's not happening.
Yeah, that front door is staying locked. No one is getting in here.
You say that, and our back door was always unlocked.
Well, it was the 90s, wasn't it?
It was just, we were like, nobody has time to go get a new key.
If they've gone to all the trouble of making the effort to go around the back, they deserve to be able to get in.
Yeah, you never, of course, that was like 10 years before I started speaking to you. That house, yeah. Anyways, I liked this episode.
I don't mind this episode. I'd probably put it at the lower end of my episode ranking. In fact, I'm pretty certain I did. But of like the air quote bad episodes, this is the best bad episode, I think.
Yeah.
The best bad episode. Put that on the movie poster.
So if I had to rank it from 1 to 10, I think I would rate this about a 7.5. Because it's a great storyline, especially for the time. And the only reason I say that is because if you watch like a couple episodes later, it's the style is a little bit different.
It's massively different. I was going to say,
I was trying to be nice.
If you look at, even just like in terms of the art style, like if you look at the character models for the children, a lot of them look like they've just come straight out of an anime. They don't look particularly. They don't look like they belong in that world.
Anime,
I'm not saying there is anything wrong.
Match the style.
Yeah, it doesn't match the style. It doesn't look right. Sewer King himself is actually a bit too detailed as well. Again, it was from this early period where they hadn't quite found their footing or their tone or their voice. And yeah, you can really tell. Compare it to, say, Heart of Ice or Feet of Clay Part 2, and it's night and day.
Is this the episode where... Actually, I think it's a couple of episodes. I hate when you can see up Batman's chin.
Yes, there is a particular shot where he's looking around in the sewers, and you pointed at it and you went, I hate that shot.
Yeah, I hate that. And the reason being is because if you're going to do a shot like that, it needs to be as detailed as possible with color. So obviously when you're looking up at somebody, you're seeing 3 different shades of, like, say I'm beige, because I am beige. You're going to see 3 different kinds of beige, whereas in cartoons, it's really, really hard to do that when it's not as detailed. So what I would have probably done is a different shot.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I'm not a creator like that, and I would never be able to do the amazing work that they do, but it's just, out of all of the shots in every show that they've done on the DCAU, if this is the one, if this is the one shot that I don't like, that's okay. It was just, yeah, I didn't like it. And I will be, it lives rent-free in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Since I rewatched it. And it's going to be one of those things that in 20 years' time, I'm going to be like, Claire, do you remember?
Going to be tossing and turning in your sleep going, oh, the upshot.
Is that what it's called? Upshot.
That's what I call it.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, who was the director of this one?
That was Frank Parr.
Frank Parr.
And I mentioned earlier I had the storyboards
Mm-hmm.
from this episode, or at least a draft of them. And someone has written some very creative notes.
Were they mean?
Well, some of them were, yes. There's a scene where the Sewer King like slaps a bread basket out of the children's hand, and there's a big handwritten note on it saying, there's profanity here. Sorry, watch your ears. As subtle as someone shitting on your head. And when I finish my book in about 85 years, I want somebody in a red marker to print out my book and say that at least on one thing, and then I will know I will have made it. There were a couple of other funny notes, some more with profanity, but I won't repeat those ones. But there's a shot of the Sewer King when he's first introduced, sat on his throne, and he's written, he looked like Elvis.
So the art style is what, going back to my rating, is really what takes it down, and that specific shot takes it down 2 points.
Yeah, and the thing that takes it down a little bit for me is
you didn't even rank it for you, did you?
Well, I did on my tier list, I'm pretty certain. I think I put it in D tier. So that's like a 5, under 5 maybe.
Really?
The things that put me off about it are as I mentioned earlier, the game of chicken at the start of the episode. Alfred claiming to know nothing about raising children. I'm like, Alfred knows very well.
He raised Bruce.
There's a scene where a frog goes into the Wayne Armory and is playing around with a blunderbuss, and Batman goes, guns and children don't mix, ever. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I mean, maybe that message is very necessary for the US. It probably is.
I was about to say, it is...
it's a cultural thing where I'm just like, you don't need to say that.
Even today, I do believe that even today, that needs to be said.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all of the campy things that Batman says, and especially like in the old Adam West show and stuff like that, I always love when they tell kids in a funny, campy way. Obviously not, Kevin didn't do it in a campy way, but I always love when they're like, you shouldn't do that. And it's actually like, no, you probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But especially with the guns, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. I just realized that it was in Batman's armory.
Yeah.
And he had guns there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, that puts it down another point. It's 6.5 now.
I suppose you could argue that maybe the Waynes, being like a wealthy family going back generations, maybe they had a collection of guns, like ancient guns. I could maybe just about see that. But to be honest, if I was Bruce Wayne and my parents got shot, the first thing I'd be doing is get those damn guns out of my house. They can go into a museum. They can be put on display for people to go and look at and go, ooh, ah. They're not going in my house.
I know you know about it, but tell the audience that this is it is plausible because I obviously grew up with my grandparents. I've mentioned that. Probably mentioned 20 more times. I grew up with my grandparents, and my grandmother, both of her parents were quite well-known archers. And her father was a really, really well-known, especially in the city that we, are from, a gaming, I can't remember what it's called. He taught people how to, shoot and stuff about game. I know nothing about games because I don't enjoy those things. And we had some, I think you say decommissioned? Is that what you would say?
Disarmed?
Yeah, disarmed guns. So you could not... We had some, ancient guns from them. And we also had bows and stuff like that. And I had heard about them before, but I had completely forgotten about them until I was 21 years old. And I think it's because I was telling Luke about them. And so did my grandparents. We completely forgot we had these guns. I think it was the only thing in our attic at our last place. So it is completely plausible that happened. But yeah, we had quite a lot of things like that in our box in our attic. It was a trunk, but yeah, it's plausible. So the Waynes might have done that. Although I know nothing about hurting animals or anything like that because I don't eat that much meat. I only eat chicken and turkey. And I don't like people hurting animals, so I come from a long line of people that did. And then my grandparents and myself were like, no thank you. Anyways.
So anyway, Bruce Wayne should have donated those to a museum, right?
Yeah.
We went to a very cool museum.
Oh,
that was
yeah.
full of medieval weaponry.
Accident.
Yeah. We were just looking for somewhere to chill out for half an hour in London, and it's behind. Was it behind Selfridges? Was it Selfridges?
It was near Selfridges. It wasn't behind Selfridges.
Oh, okay.
But it was near Knightsbridge. Is that what it's called?
I don't remember.
No.
But yeah, it was a cool museum full of paintings, and out the back they just had this massive arsenal of intricately carved swords and guns and...
Oh, especially the Asian knives and stuff, because I like knives. I do, although I probably shouldn't be holding them. I love the... especially when they're made out of the what is that wood? Oak? I can't remember what it is, but especially when they're made out of wood. Because it's so amazing, the carvings on them and all of that. Yeah. So maybe the Waynes had those.
Yeah, they probably did.
Yeah.
They probably did.
Should we stop talking about that and see how Mikey P's doing?
Well, that's going to have to wait because the first comment is from RJ Productions, who says, hey, Luke and Mary, hey. I say, hey, what's going on in the episode of Totally Schway?
Did you get the joke?
Yes.
Love it.
This was basically Superman's version of Perchance to Dream, which I watched recently, and it genuinely made me emotional because it's probably Kevin Conroy's best Batman Bruce Wayne performance. P.S. This is an update for my Batman story, Batman Shadows of Gotham. This story will adapt to the BTAs episode Birds of a Feather, but the difference between this story and this episode is that Shadows of Gotham portrays the Penguin as a legitimate threat, fixing the flaws I have with that episode portraying Oswald Cobblepot as a bumbling, gullible fool who's easy to manipulate when he is the manipulator, and gives Veronica Vreeland an actual arc where she develops as a character and tells the story of Bruce Wayne learning what it truly means to be Batman and to be a hero. Thanks for reading and hope you two have a great week. Thanks, Harry.
I'm excited about Veronica. I'm excited to see how you portray her. I'm excited to see how anyone portrays her, to be honest with you. But no, I'm really excited. That sounds really awesome.
Next, we have Lowell Lucas Jr., who says, "Hey, today it's totally Schway getting Clark a gift for his perfect Sunday. Bring him offerings, the commandments say." Not one of your strongest offerings, Lowell Lucas Jr., but
I loved it.
Yes, Mary does enjoy them.
I really do. I look forward to them each time. When I say I look forward to them, I have to be honest with you, because it comes up on the YouTube studio, I do read the first sentence or two of them, and it gets me excited to do the podcast. I mean, I was excited to do it, but you know what I mean.
To continue the comment, he says, "Hey everyone, thank you all for the awesome well wishes. I'm hoping my comments make it, as it's been a frustrating couple of weeks. It hasn't shown up. What the hell, YouTube? Also, thanks for covering Alan Moore's The Man Who Has Everything. It's a great story and an incredible episode. I do wonder if they avoided Wonder Woman getting the Black Mercy as to not play hot potato with it, or if they wanted to avoid how technically the damn thing looked attached to her chest. Oh, yeah. Oh, tentacly, excuse me. Misread. How tentacly the damn thing looked attached to her chest. On to Alan Moore. I do feel for him. Man had great integrity and isn't afraid to call out the greed of corporations. Even the Simpsons have taken him on with his disgust with Watchmen babies, to which he got righteously fed up. It says a lot when a company is so creatively bankrupt when you have to reuse a great one-off story and make it canon. For example, Killing Joke was his baby, then DC years later, sorry for spoilers, made the Three Jokers story and heavily implied Killing Joke's Joker, KJJ, was the true Joker, and Batman kept his former... with Batman keeping his former wife and child safe, which he somehow knew their identity, so what's the point of the Mobius chair? Yeah, if you didn't read Jeff Johns' Justice League comics or Three Jokers, that probably won't make much sense to you. To be frank, I read them, didn't make an awful lot of sense to me. Jeff Johns went through a period where he was just writing like sequels to Alan Moore's stuff, like he did I guess a pseudo sequel to Watchmen called The Doomsday Clock. Which, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get into it. I'm trying to stay positive. You can tell I didn't enjoy it. But anyway, even DC using the Watchmen's universe to fix the New 52 and kind of blaming Dr. Manhattan for it. Yeah, there we go. That was one of the things that Jeff Johns wrote. Honestly, I respect Watchmen, but didn't care much about the crossover as it felt kind of forced. DC wanted to wrap up a reconned universe, so had to drag Moore's creation into it. That's my 2 cents. Now, what are you going to do to me, DC? Well, they're going to keep your work in publication forever and keep sending you checks. Anyway, here's hoping my comments make it this time. It's ridiculous it hasn't, but we shall see. Take care, everyone, and thank you all for the well wishes. And I see, just to make certain, Lowell Lucas Jr. posted the comment twice.
Good.
And it did make it both times.
I'm just so annoyed with YouTube. I mean, it would be something if it was every comment that wasn't getting through, but it's random comments. Like it chooses it at random, and it's so frustrating because I like to see all of the comments, and it's not like it's holding them or anything, holding them hostage, saying you don't get any vegetarian sausage. Damn. Oh, it's good to hear from you, Lowell.
Next, we have Evangelos Foskolos, who says, as heartbreaking as Superman's reaction is, one of, if not the most tragic moments in the DCAU, I do find Batman's reaction to his fantasy equally tragic. The fact that Bruce actually seemed to be at peace and happy with the fact his parents might survive is really sad.
Oh.
Yes, I agree. It's very true. He actually seemed not even at peace, he was happy. Anyway. The next comment we have is Ryan Jones, who says, for The Man Who Has Everything is, for me anyway, one of the most saddest episodes of Justice League Unlimited. When this episode comes out, it will be May 25th, the 1-year anniversary of the death of Richard M. Sherman. And for some reason you don't know who he is. Him and his brother Rob B. Sherman are the songwriters who worked at Disney during the 50s and the 60s. The songs will always have this optimism about them, and that is one of the reasons why I'm an optimistic person. And Richard died at 95, so yeah, he definitely lived life to the fullest, which is something I'll always aspire to do by achieving my dreams. The only good thing I can say is at least he is with his brother Robert, who died 12 years earlier, which is a long time to be away from your family, and I hope this episode cheers me up. I'm happy that you believe me, Mary, about what I said on Jeffrey Katzenberg. I hope DC makes a Batman the Animated Series and Totally Spies crossover comic with the creative team from both shows, because it will be cool. And I would love to see the girls make a joke about that Alfred looks like the boss Jerry. Also, I want it to take place after Season 5, because after Season 5 of Totally Spies was the original ending for it, be it they brought it back for Season 6 with no explanation of how evil came back into the universe, so I would like to find out in this comic. I originally wanted it to be a movie, but since Kevin Conroy is dead, a comic of it is the next best thing. Also, I would love to see James from Watchtower Database try to see how it fits in the DCAU timeline. Yeah, that would be a challenge, I'm certain of it. Right. Ooh, a lot of scrolling to get to the next comment, so I already know who it is. It's Big Mikey P. Play the fanfare. Wah, 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 boo, boo, boo. Yeah. And he starts out by saying something very negative.
Big Mikey P! I am not going to suppress your negativity, but I would like to say sometimes you should write something really positive. Maybe like how cute my cats are.
And he says, I doubt Kevin Altieri's comic will be about the DCAU. However, I will be very glad to be proven so wrong. Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed.
We love Kevin in this house.
Yeah, Kevin's a good guy.
We love him.
Anyways, woohoo, one of my fave comic book adaptations, and surprisingly one that actually made me tear up on a certain dream sequence. Would like to see a Starro iteration with the Black Mercy dream powers. Would have proved useful for Kill the Justice League in hindsight. Would have been interesting to see the Squad, especially Harley Quinn, who lost both the Joker and Poison Ivy, face their inner demons and constant sufferings. So Superman would have preferred Lois being slightly less proactive on her job and being a redhead like Lana. Interesting. And he says at 9:54 Kitty, so yes, he heard Gilgamesh meow.
Yeah.
Oh, that powerful, awesome fight to Mongol paired with the rendition to a certain track is something to behold. Batman's dream is really, really relatable. One could imagine similar real-life people then and now dreaming of averting certain bad things in the world like poor Bruce Wayne did, including me. Judging by Batman, The Brave and the Bold, and Arkham Shadow, I doubt the DCAU Joe Chill was homeless and penniless. If anyone likes this episode, I also recommend Adventure Time's Puoi, Puhoy, where Finn the human went to a pillow dimension, yeah, classic isekai tale, fell in love with a kind and pretty mayor's daughter. Really, did he need Candy Kingdom Princess Bonnibel Bubblegum or Phoebe the Flame Princess in the first place? Got a happy life, in contrast to him staying single in Oo, though he's fine with that, and passed away naturally, only for implications that said Pillow Dimension got devoured by the Glob entity. I don't know. I bet that if the book rights stayed with Moore, the stuff he made would have been very difficult to reprint because of authorial clinginess, for lack of a meaner term. With that, I'd argue that Warner Brothers is a necessary evil having the rights instead. And as much as his works were dark, at least they felt masterful. His works in later years seemed to be not as strong in comparison, at least in my purview. The DCAU sure got lucky nailing and impressing Alan Moore and Frank Miller. See the New Batman Adventures Legends of the Dark Knight Returns section. Also can see why he enjoys The New Frontier. It's a masterful 1950s superheroes love letter. Smart decision making the JLU adaptation be nicer than the comic, for they really jarred me, the latter's grim differences to the refreshing former. Yeah, Jason's Robin even felt out of place to me, and I appreciate Wonder Woman became the one who Black Mercied Mongol. I missed the bottled city of Kandor detail, though. Also, in my opinion, the 80s were brighter due to the coming fall of the dread Soviet Union and them being humiliated by Chernobyl and the Soviet-Afghan War. Darker would be the 60s and 70s. They make me shudder. Again, even I don't like Nixon that much. Well, I'm glad you clarified, Big Mikey P. But seriously, I'm still fervently bitter over communism winning the Vietnam War, wreaking havoc on places like Cambodia in return, and still doing wrong.
Wait, hold on. Hold on there. America, the US of A, did not win the war? What? Excuse me? I'm joking, obviously.
I've lost my place in his comment. Oh no. And still doing wrong, as say the NPA in the Philippines as of this writing, would love to reset history to surreptitiously create Dr. Manhattan and recruit the comedian to ensure otherwise. Oh dear.
Yes.
However, he could have ended the war almost immediately if they criffing noticed that the Tet offensive was actually crippling to the hated North. Oh, and to any Vietnamese local saying otherwise in the comments, forget you. Right, CeeLo.
Yeah.
I'm going to skip past that because he doesn't like different opinions from Vietnamese people that feel differently.
Excuse you? Vietnamese people.
No, he's not saying he doesn't like Vietnamese people. He's saying he doesn't like the opposing view. Anyway, do you want to watch a DCAU that never continued past Superman the Animated Series Legacy? Would Blackadder feel right if Season 4 got cancelled midway, let alone not got past the first season? Hey, you didn't continue the fact that the Filipinos haven't cut... No, I'm not reading that either. They named the crazy driver utter morons our international law enforcement and news media are. So he was talking about the horrible event recently where the media named the perpetrator of it. 41 minutes and 20 seconds already started. However, things are slow and have just finished rewatching up to TV show episode 2 of 12. But there, you just pronounced finale properly, did I? 42 minutes and 28 seconds for specific Laura Doone chapter reading updates. John Ridd's sister Annie has married former highwayman Tom Fagus. Ridd has encountered and met with Uncle Ben's anti-Charles II rebellion, or whatever, and the titular maiden's found out about her true heritage and just left Ridd. I'm nearing the finish in short. 42 minutes 41. Got past episode 9 and Shirley has finally met brunette, laughing bosom friend Diana Barry. Episode 10, which I'll see next, will actually be filler between chapters 12, subject of episode 9, and 13, and has trouble involving Maria Cuthbert's amethyst brooch of the book. No, not talking about FTMWHE didn't disappoint Luke and Mary. Say, have you guys checked out Gallivant? Any take on Jesus Christ Superstar, the Sweeney Todd film? No to all three.
I don't think we ever got around to watching Sweeney Todd.
Not the movie. I mean, we watched the one with Ray Winstone. But...
Oh, yeah, definitely. But not the one with JD in it.
Would like to know if the podcast Flipside included will check out those concealed newest comments. Notice some of Chicken Ear Screen's comments are stuck there and can't be seen on top. I do check both, since that was pointed out a couple of episodes ago. You may recall a recent episode where I went, oh, damn it, a bunch of other comments have shown up. But yeah, there we go. Thoughts about the UK? Well, it ain't the super cold and somewhat desolate Siberian tundras, if not the African tsetse fly infestation grounds. And unstereotypically usual, the unnatural London and nearby weather patterns we'll have to get used to. Squint's comment is neat to hear here, but casually mentioning offing the lice and mice does explain why YouTube wants to redact the otherwise informative comment. Like, honestly, how is the censor algorithm doing that? Poor surviving youth mouse, doubt they'll survive being moved to the nature park. May thy hopeful good uncle rest in satisfied peace, phantasm. Can't pray, but will hope kindly for thine vision, Lowell. I never laughed on Granny Goodness's design, though. If anything, it's like not laughing at Frieza's final design in Dragon Ball Z onwards. I say Z because I'm English, and anyone goes, oh, it's Dragon Ball Z. That's just because it's an American dub. Shut up.
All right.
But no, I had a friend at school that would always go, it's Dragon Ball Z. I'm like, yeah, are you American? Then it's Z. Shut the F word up.
Oh, wow, you were quite...
He just irritated me. It's all he'd go on about. Anyway, Bad Mandolin and Waffle Maker pity on Widener.
It's Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z. Can understand. I'd never even watched it anyway, so I don't know why I'm that invested. Can understand the song mistake. That's like mistaking I Need a Hero originating from Shrek 2. No, Big Mikey P. No, it's nothing like thinking that the song originates from Shrek 2. It's like literally the version of the song by the Bangles is the one that inspired them. So you say it's the Bangles song that inspired them. Anyway, why need to watch YouTube on TV? We already find with small screens, because sometimes it's more comfortable. Rakutans are overhyped conquerors, and Disney's Thrawn TIE Defender is weaker than Legends Zarins. By the way, there's a Batman and Robin comic by Paul Dini featuring the Mad Hatter that ends like, for the man who has everything, even has a curious Superman statue cameo. Yes, I'm well aware of it. It's an issue of The Adventures of Batman and Robin. Humorously AI based on the Fae folk would be an interesting idea for fiction these days. Appreciate the bedtime stories and etc. recommendations, and honestly those thoughts on Doctor Who and Star Wars are graciously apt. However, I wonder what other thoughts on Star Wars non-galactic Civil War era stuff, like the Clone Wars, the pre-Battle of Yavin rule of the Empire, the Darth Bane era, the Tales of the Jedi and Knights of the Old Republic era, and so on. Would vehemently disagree on using a chatbot for comments, but really, how can I voice chat my comments for clarity's sake? Can YouTube even support that? You just record you could do what Michael Dolan did. He uploaded a video to the Facebook group. Or you could record a video and then just email Mary the link.
Yeah.
Lots of ways it can be done, Big Mikey P. Just think outside of the box.
See, that's where I have problems. I think outside the box, inside the box, in somebody else's box and everything. And then I get so overwhelmed that I'm like, I don't know what to do. Does anybody else get that way? I think it's the neurodivergent thing. It's like, oh, hey. And then I have to ask somebody what to do because I'm like, I have like 85 things I could do. But what is the thing that you want me to do?
To conclude Big Mikey P's latest tome, he says, with the Dark World in mind, I really sympathise with Anakin, the hero with no fear, Skywalker from the ROTS novelisation. What is that? I don't know. My brain's not working at the moment. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not well. Haha. Anyway, Anakin Skywalker from the ROTS novelisation wanted to do anything and everything. Oh, was that Revenge of the Sith? There we go. My brain caught up. So to make things right, minus the toxic possessiveness of a cherished thing like Padme Amidala, of course. Maybe, hopefully, usually. Underdwellers next. Curious, but not going to be too dry. Hopefully it wasn't too dry. Thank you, as ever, for your lengthy thoughts, Big Mikey P.
I'm going to make it a book one day. It's going to be a bestseller.
Yeah. Next we have Yakko Warner Tower, who says that episode was pretty heartwarming and not really edgy like a lot of moments. Yeah, it was good. Very well balanced, I felt. Glad you agreed. Next we have SR Striker, who says, well, since Alan Moore likes this, then what he made and hated all adaptations of his work like Roald Dahl, how he liked the animated BFG movie and hated Gene Wilder's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but if he was alive, he would have liked Tim Burton's take on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Do you think so? Maybe he would have.
I love Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the original one. I don't mind the other one, but I do prefer... I just think Gene Wilder's acting was just right.
Eric Roberts being Mongol is surprising. At first he sounded like Ron Perlman's Slade before revealing himself, but when I was thinking of the new version of the Injustice League, I thought of him being in the team for the first, but the rest of the team realised that he was too dangerous and he would destroy the Earth, and I thought of a comedic moment where he tries to get used to Earth customs, and then he would be replaced by Metallo for the Superman equivalent of the team. And also, in the Tomorrow of Us Warworld movie, he was barely in it, as it wasn't Warworld at all, and it was only the Trinity in the movie and not the whole team in Space Gladiator, but them trapped in the matrix of different eras, that they seemed like movie sets, as I recall that the villain called the Key did something, so mentioned that and rejected concept of him being Brainiac in Justice League Unlimited if you put the Key from Beware the Batman in the next poll. Yeah, I'm not putting the Key in Beware the Batman in the next poll because there's not enough to say about the Key, frankly. At least I don't plan on doing it. Might change my mind, but probably won't. Seeing that Batman getting the Black Mercy where he kinda got what he wanted, but remembered that once in future episode where Green Lantern found out he had a son in the future. But if Helena Wayne did appear in Batman Beyond, would you think he would react the same way, especially finding out that Wonder Woman was erased and was still here would figure that Diana is not the mother and Selena is the mother and she has her eyes. And when he's developing a bond with her, and when they are trying to stop Kronos, she took a bullet for him, so he would be able to fix everything and maybe see each other. And after that, Bruce would whisper to himself, saying, I will never forget you, as her dying is just how he felt about his parents dying. So he, like Stuart, isn't sure if he should go back to Selena or ditch Diana. Also on the subject on Bruce's parents, you remember the cable guy on the Ben Stiller stuff? I don't know what that has to do with Bruce Wayne's parents.
The cable guy, like Jim Carrey cable guy?
The cable guy on the Ben Stiller stuff. I don't know what that is.
Oh, the one that, who plays him? Hold on, I'm gonna have to Google this.
I'm going to continue the comment and Mary can come back to us with that information. I just like how Mongol suggests Wonder Woman use the other weapon and saying, of course he will win. I would have added, of course I will, sweetie, and what would Wonder Woman, because I assume it's only the DCAU, as she stopped saving people because of an absence of one man, that if he didn't die she would have married Steve and had his children. I wonder would inherit any of the abilities like how Vandal Savage's children do age and can die, that he broke one of the necks in Young Justice, as thinking all this stuff is beneath her. This is an unrelated topic, but on Mask of the Phantasm, about one of the crime lords has a daughter in the Adventures Continued comic, where she might be a love interest for Penguin. You wonder why didn't she or Andrea go after each other? Well, Esther Valestra, that's a fun name to say.
So, Ben Stiller was Sam Sweet in The Cable Guy. And by the way, The Cable Guy, if people go back and watch it, you could probably create a really cool bingo card of everyone that is in that movie. You have Jack Black, Ben Stiller, obviously Jim Carrey, Eric Roberts. I don't know why I just went blank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have the IMDb open in front of you.
Oh, George. I always call it Siegel, but it's not. It's George Segal.
Okay, I don't think I've ever watched that movie. So unfortunately, the reference was lost on me, SR Striker. But maybe someone listening is nodding along, going, "Yeah."
I'm surprised that I got somebody's references. Yeah.
Next, we have Alexander Frawkes, I think I've said that correctly, and I apologise if I haven't. While this episode is great, or a great one with one of the best performances of George Newbern as Superman, I feel it suffers from one specific change. In the source material, there's a whole subplot in Clark's dream about Jor-El joining an extremist moment against the current government on Krypton, resulting in fight among the Kryptonians that injured Kara, Clark's cousin. This detail works better than having Clark relive Krypton's explosion, since it not only shows him that even if Krypton wasn't destroyed, it would still be a messed up society, but it also is important to teach him the danger of being so obsessed over past and not able to see the good stuff of the future and move on. At its core, For the Man Who Has Everything isn't just a story about sacrificing your dreams for the greater good. It's about learning to move forward and build a better future for yourself with optimism and hope. Keep in mind that these stories were made in the 80s when Superman continuity was about to be reset, and some fans were probably feeling frustrated to accept the end of the pre-crisis stories that they had been following. Yeah, that's a fair point around the continuity reset. Thank you for your comment. All right, next we've got Screen Wiper, who, what the hell is this? He has a comment entitled Pigeon News.
I don't know if I've told you guys this, but I love pigeons to the point that I have this ring by, I think it's Tessa Metcalf is who makes it, because she makes jewelry based around pigeons, which is awesome. But it's a talon. It's a pigeon's talon that goes around the whole thing. I love it so much.
So Screen Wiper's Pigeon News is that this story was cut from my last comment to save Luke's voice, as he already had an extra chicken news to read. A couple of weekends ago, Nextdoor knocked saying their cat was missing. They found it in my trees. I also found a fledgling wood pigeon on my deck. Most likely the cat scared it from its tree. I tried to feed it some chicken food, but it was too scared of me. Instead, it jumped back into the trees. It doesn't fly, so was only the height of the deck from the ground, like a metre from the ground. This was the child of the wood pigeon who, a month or two ago, landed on my garden path next to my hens and got beaten up by them for intruding. So I knew this flightless fledgling would meet a sticky end if it fell and landed on the path where the chickens could get it, and would be angered by its presence. After specialist advice, I placed it back in the nest, as wood pigeons aren't the type to reject their chick for smelling a bit humany. Couldn't find it, so I built a new nest down on top of a cardboard box and placed it near the top of the tree. Then I grabbed the fledgling, but I was too gentle and it wriggled free, climbing deeper and a little higher into the trees. The parents started building a new nest around where the fledgling had climbed to. They were a bit near another couple of nesting wood pigeons, and there was a war between them for like 4 days. Yesterday I saw the fledgling fly from the trees to the roof of next door's kitchen, so it confirms he survived and should live well. Now he can fly.
We love that.
And on to your regularly scheduled chicken news, which is rivaling Big Mikey P's.
Hey, don't you dare. If it's about anything that has to do with our viewers, I'm going to listen. And obviously chickens, I'm definitely going to listen.
Well, I can already see the screen wipers apologised for the length, but...
Don't apologise.
Well, I appreciate the apology.
Don't apologise.
Right. So, chicken news. Listened to Totally Schway this weekend while tidying the garage. The hens had a salad to eat, but Mabel joined me because the other hens were being greedy and a bit mean to her, whereas I protect her and give snacks. Doris joined us briefly too, but all she did was try without success to break into the seed crate and then shat everywhere. Yep. Wilma arrived too, but by that time I had finished tidying and was about to give them their seeds in the aviary. Betty just ate salad and napped until seeds time. Update from Sunday, May the 18th. So that was last Sunday.
Yes. I love chickens.
I'll start with the good news.
Chickens.
He's starting with the good news, Mary.
There's bad news?
A week or so ago, I went into the garden and found Mabel eating out of the feeder by herself. I don't think she opened it herself, though, as she was stood at the end of one side. I reckon someone else opened it by standing in the middle, and then Mabel joined in next to her before she left Mabel to have the feeder alone. Next morning, Mabel stood on the feeder pedal all by herself and called her a good girl, clever girl. Maybe I shouldn't have distracted her because the lid opening up to reveal the food scared her and she ran off it again. Incremental progress is still progress, though. Mabel is getting just that little bit more self-confident and assertive, even if she steps back every time she makes 2 steps forward. Mabel is also getting more talkative. Our main story this week is about Doris. She is having a bad time. And I'm not going to pretend like there's not a chance that she will die this summer. But I'm trying to be strong and do all I can to maximise her chances. Turns out that the purple patches that appeared on her comb, called cyanosis, weren't just from spring hormones after all. She is sick, very sick. On Thursday she had a day off laying eggs, or at least no eggs came out of her. Good, she deserves a break, I thought. Wednesday, no eggs either. Weird, but maybe she's just having an extra day off and probably needs it. I thought that afternoon she went into the coop to attempt to lay an egg, but nothing came out. Thursday afternoon she went in the coop to lay for an hour. Way longer than normal. It's normally like 5 to 10 minutes. Eventually she did lay an egg, but it was very pale. Usually after a day off, the eggs come out with a deep and rich colour. Pale eggs are when she hasn't had a day off and is running on minerals like calcium. This egg shouldn't be pale, so something's wrong. I worry that Doris has a tumour on her oviduct. That'd explain everything. The blood flow disruption a tumour causes would explain the cyanosis. The tumour blocking her oviduct would explain the trouble passing eggs. The tumour absorbing nutrients would explain the pale shell. I took her to the vet on Friday. It was very stressful trying to find transport, but I did it. Remember when I said her laying so many eggs worried she'd injured herself if she carried on? Well, that's what happened. She laid so many eggs that her oviduct has swollen from the strain. Something-itis, it's called, really. Never heard of it before. If I knew this was going to happen at this point, I would have put her on egg-stopping hormones to prevent this, but I didn't know. Still feel guilty, and like I should have known, though. I did say there was a chance something would happen some when, but I also thought after spring that she would lay less and she'd avoid it. I told the vet my cancer concerns, but he couldn't find any lumps. Neither could I when I when I had fondled her and fondled Mabel as a control/comparison. Doris is on anti-inflammatory painkillers and the egg-stopping hormones. Maybe when they wear off, she will lay eggs safely again. Maybe not. Maybe she won't even live long enough to have them wear off. Another worrying symptom she has is that her appetite is low and her digestion is slow. This is a symptom of many illnesses, including cancer, especially when the tumour blocks any part of the digestive tract, like it did with both Pebbles and Blue. Late morning after the vet Sunday, Saturday, Doris went back to the coop and she laid 2 eggs. One of a below par quality with a pale misshapen shell and the other with a soft shell that burst. Hopefully not inside her, as that can cause an infection called peritonitis, which she may have to a mild to moderate case of. Betty beat that once and Blue beat a very severe case with the help of antibiotics, but it can kill. So it seems that Doris would have become egg-bound if intervention was any later. Egg-bind is when a hen makes eggs but can't lay them and it just fills up with eggs until they kill her with organ rupture or something. So better out than in. Doris seems better after that, but she still isn't 100%, not even close. Usually energetic, she tires easily and lies down a lot, though the heat is making the older, fluffier hens lie down a lot too. Hard to say how much she is just copying them. She eats, but not much as usual. She isolates herself from the others, though is doing that a little less each day so far, and hopefully regaining her sociability. Doris normally a very noisy and chatty hen, but she's uncharacteristically quiet these days. It's creepy. Though she did crow and bark at something once, not much else. In an attempt to help Doris's food go down, I got the hens some live maggots. The idea is that they will eat any potentially rotting food blocking her crop, and make it all go down and through easier. It worked when Betty shat out her peritonitis pus, ate it and gave herself a crop infection. I am also giving Doris crop massages to help push the food into her stomach, and putting apple cider vinegar down her throat before meds to try break down any stuck food and aid digestion. I might give her a warm bath to help her pass any more eggs she might have in her. Not dealt with an illness quite like this before, so hard to know for sure what to do and what not to do. Wilma and Betty have had uneventful weeks at least. Both seem well, managing not to get too bothered by the heat and resting lots and mostly sticking to the shade. I have been spending the weekend in the garden to spend much needed quality time with the hens and monitor Doris. Wilma and Betty often rest directly underneath me, under the sunbed, while the younger hens hunt and forage. The other hens are mostly doing a great job looking after Doris, though sometimes I have to tell Wilma off for bullying her. At bedtime and other times when they lie down, they cushed her, and let her cush them. If there is any more news before next Sunday, I will try to add it in time for the next episode. And an update as of Saturday the 24th of May, Doris is much better now and nearly out of the woods. I was trying a sort to aid her digestion. One of more of things worked eventually, to my great relief. She has been acting more sociable and has totally started talking again. Not as much as she used to, but still being vocal. Her body language and behaviour tells me she still doesn't feel right, and that's probably due to having just been put on the hormones. The first time is always the worst time. Mabel has gotten more confident while Doris was sick, and picking on her less, but Doris has made it clear that she is third rank in the pack of 4 since making some recovery. Wilma and Betty are still doing very well.
We love Doris. We love all of the chickens, but I never want anything to happen to them, and I want them to live forever.
Screen Wiper also said, I was trying to think of something to say about Granny Goodness that hadn't already been said. All I could think was that I really don't ever want to see her naked. Okay, cool. But I decided not to spare putting that image in people's mind. Too late. Lots of comments saying they didn't know she was voiced by a man, or that men are good at voicing certain types of women, not necessarily evil ones, but ones with deeper voices which may be older and grumpier than most. Just want to say on that point that it goes both ways. And some male characters have had great voices provided by women, usually young or small ones. The Simpsons and various Nickelodeon shows.
I was about to say, was it Fairly Odd Parents? It wasn't Tara Strong, was it?
I don't know.
I'm probably mistaken, but on Fairly Odd Parents, I think a lady did some of the boy voices.
Okay, next we have Doc Widener, who says, thank goodness you're here. Happy birth month, Mary. Happy America's Mother's Day. Oh, God. You can tell I'm run down.
Happy birthday. I got, oh no, that was for the English one. The cats got me a plant.
Got our house awnings up, sent pictures, trying to get stuff planted for the missus. My finger I sliced a few weeks back is still healing, so it's still tender if I touch stuff the wrong way. So So doing more supervising of the boys than usual work, making grilled cheese for Daniel and waiting for the missus to wake up. As I recall, I commented on this episode 2 weeks ago when you mentioned this at the topic, so no sense in repeating myself. Writing as I listen, so if something comes up, I may edit. As expected, something to add. Agree with Luke on what Bat sees, especially in terms of Joe Chill. Also, I don't think that would have happened on Estes JLU being able to have slightly looser standards. Comics, and not just comics, can be a very copycat industry. Success breeds imitation, and just like multiplicity, usually the copies are inferior. I've been loving Andor because it's a show set in Star Wars, but it is not a Star Wars show. Given its success, I imagine we will see more shows like it, though I'll be surprised if they do it as well. Hope your scan results go well. Mary, I think maybe what you're saying about our house is craftsman style, which is what the missus was going for when she designed it.
Love it.
It is very much an American architectural style. Also, you never need to reply or feel the need to reply to an email. Usually, if it's something I see, like an Orion figure on clearance on Target or pictures of the awnings, because I knew I was going to mention them this week.
I have so I have fixed my email, by the way. I was getting overwhelmed with things that were coming through, like getting past my spam, and I think I have fixed it, because now instead of having about 30 emails a day, I have like 3. So hopefully no emails get lost, but I had to unsubscribe to things that I'd never subscribed to before, and I just didn't get it. So yeah, that's a little boring thing, but I am not getting as much spam put in my inbox, so I'll be able to read all of it a lot quicker. And I spent money on the Fugglers. I bought the Harley, Joker, Batman, and then the only one that I couldn't purchase was the Superman, but I will find that one.
To continue the comment, he says, Mary, I too get pulled into the rabbit hole of company histories. I was talking to someone about Woolco, which was Woolworth's bigger Kmart-like stores in the 70s, and found out that Foot Locker was a spin-off, and the only current successful part of Woolworth business still around. Luke, you have not had the pleasure of upscale places that have water with cucumber slices in a pitcher or cooler with the water. I mean, I have, and I've always refused it. It particularly annoys me where they do like lemon, lime, and cucumber. I was like, you could just do lemon and lime. That would be fine. Don't include the cucumber. And I remember once they offered to just take it out of the water. I was like, no, because it's already contaminated it. What are you talking about? You're crazy.
That's like I've had there was I can't remember what restaurant it was, but when I first came to London, I had lived in like where we lived before for a while, and I think it was a burger had a pickle on it.
Yeah.
And the server literally, I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember.
Took the bun off, took the pickle off. It was like, oh, there you go. I'm like, no, I'm actually allergic. Like, I can't eat that now.
Yeah.
But no, I like the fruits and water though. Like lemon, lime, raspberries, strawberries, blackberries.
Mm-hmm. Count yourself lucky. I don't like cucumbers either, but the missus does. I had sunny side up eggs and fake brown sugar cinnamon oatmeal for my brunch with all of you today.
Ooh.
That does sound nice.
Yeah.
The Sewer King. The voice actor for him, Michael Pataki, was one of King Tut's henchmen in the Adam West era of Batman. Amenophis Tufik. He is one of those guys who, if you are my age, would go, hey, I know him from something. And something is almost everything. Star Trek, Mission Impossible, Shaft, Star Trek The Next Generation, Bonanza, Happy Days, All in the Family, The Hardy Boys, Rocky IV, etc. And I rather like sometimes a one-and-done villain. I think you sometimes get diminishing returns. Baby Doll comes to mind. I think her character would have been better served to be one and done. Yeah, pretty much.
Like one-and-done characters. Because sometimes when you get to a point where it's just like they're using that character just for the, it's like when you use an actor sometimes and they're not really best fitted for the role. It's kind of like that. But yeah, I get it.
Next we have David Carney, who says, hi Luke and Mary, I have this story in the DC Heroes and Villains collection. Must get round to reading it. Same goes for Watchmen. Enjoy the series more than the film. It's one of my favourite JLU episodes. There's a heart which you don't see a lot in animation. Never realised Kevin Conroy voiced Joe Chill. Have a good week, both. Yes, you have a good week too, David. Okay, next we have Aris the Phantasm, who says, by the time you're reading this comment, I'm probably halfway through reading Big Mikey P's comment. It's like climbing Everest. Time for the Underdwellers. Admittedly not an episode with the best reputation among fans, but there's still a couple of interesting elements, like seeing Batman's vulnerability when seeing children in need of help. That's unfortunately pretty much it with things that stand out to me with this episode, other than the absurdity of the Sewer King himself. It generally just feels like an episode where, after a while, it makes you think, oh right, that happened. In all honesty, personally, this is an episode I would constantly try to reimagine in my mind as a kid, mainly because of the setting, as a team-up story between Batman and Killer Croc, where Croc, who is also independently living in the sewers, only to find the Sewer King and see what he's doing to the children, which caused him to agree to help Batman to take the Sewer King down. I always loved the idea that since Wayland always looked out for homeless people in the comics, and it could have been a loose adaptation of the story Requiem for a Killer. Alas, later in the show, Killer Croc would make his appearance, and it always struck me how much more one-note BTAs' Croc is compared to his comic book counterpart. Nothing about his past, about his mother dying in childbirth, his abusive aunt who raised him, or his condition deteriorating his body, despite all of that being established since the 5th issue the character appeared in. It's no wonder the thing most people remember about DCAU Croc is the thing he never actually even said, which was, I threw a rock at him. Because other than that, I mean, what else is there in terms of writing that elevated the character compared to how BTAS adapted other villains? I was being myself. I offer that as an example, but I agree there's not very much. And as such, I'm sure you're thinking of it, the single panel from the tie-in comics confirming his backstory doesn't mean it's enough or suddenly mean he's well used in the show. On top of that, his intelligence was practically reduced to glorified muscle. I never say comic book Croc was any kind of genius, but he was certainly smarter than the one in BTAS. And the one time they had the opportunity to incorporate Wayland's backstory as a carnival performer and seeing his reaction to the other Sideshow performers in the episode Sideshow, but alas, all we got was 3 seconds of him questioning if you should rob them. And even his design in BTAS is less humanizing than what his then current design was in the comics before Jim Lee decided to make him look like a lizard. Gone are his lips, replaced with more overtly crocodile-looking face and giant gap where his cheeks are, with him also being grey for some reason. Dare I say, in BTAS he looked more like the Spider-Man villain Tombstone than he did the comic book Killer Croc. I see people saying that in TNBA his design was more reptilian-looking because he had one less set of fingers, but I'm sorry, if anything it's more comic accurate other than the missing fingers. In TNBA he had lips again and was actually green, which Croc always was. I don't love either the BTAS or TNBA Croc designs, but I can certainly point to the latter as being more comic accurate. For all the great writing achievements it accomplished, the DCAU unfortunately also started the trend of Killer Croc being, in my opinion, the most consistently badly adapted Batman villain across all media outside of the comics. Sorry to deviate so much from the episode The Underdwellers, but I just didn't feel I had a lot to say about that episode. It's good, because I actually lost track of why we were talking about Killer Croc then, and I've just been reading it out, but that's more of a reflection of how my mind is just still very foggy at the moment, rather than anything you said. So on to the next comment, which is from Borjan Kosarak. I hope I've said that correctly, and I probably haven't. Something another YouTuber pointed out in their video on this episode, as Jor-El leaves the scene with Kal-El, his voice changed from Christopher McDonald to the Pa Kent voice actor. He's actually credited for the part. Yeah, that was a really nice touch. Yeah, it was very good. I like that very much.
It's little things like that that make the DCAU completely different than other shows. Small little details like that are actually huge things. It's awesome.
Yeah. Next we have Liquid Snake 12, who says, YouTube finally recommended your podcast to me. Great! And thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed it and appreciate you leaving a comment.
Yeah.
On to the final comment then, which is from Michael Dolan, who says, Ahoy, Luke and Mary. I've seen it several times. Several! For the love of Rassilon, warn a guy when you're going to do that. There is no Mary, only Zool. The Black Mercy Flower is like that mirror in the Magic Boarding School books, whose hateful name shall not be spoken. Oh, yes, yes. that shows you your deepest desire only you may not even consciously know you have, or one that you may not even consciously know you have, but once revealed you would gladly give up everything to obtain. Mongol may not know precisely what Superman is dreaming, but he does know that whatever it is, it's a dream for which he will likely never wake up. And I'd like to take note that Mongol's assumption that he's dreaming of conquest and domination reveals what a pitifully limited being Mongol is. He can't, even in his wildest imaginings, conceive of anything better than what he's already doing. I got to talk with Eric Roberts at a convention in Atlantic City several years ago and complimented him on his portrayal of Mongol, especially the way he plays him full of confidence that he's the toughest guy in the universe, and just dim enough not to realise that he's in the presence of beings like Superman and Darkseid who manifestly outclass him. He seemed a smidgen offended that I doubted Mongol's status as always the baddest dude in the room. Now that's dedication to the character. He also told a delightful story about being next door neighbours with Christopher Walken, who is a phenomenal cook, and contriving reasons to drop by around mealtimes. In Christopher Walken voice, oh God, can I even try this? I'll try it. No, I'm not going to. Hey Eric, how are you doing? Did you eat yet? Here, taste this. You like that? Sit down, grab a plate. No, don't worry about it. I made plenty. Your suggestion that the Joe Chill in Bruce's dream having Kevin Conroy voice represents his subconscious trying to tell him that he can't avoid being Batman immediately brings to mind the much more blatant statement of the idea in the BTAs episode Perchance to Dream, when an actual Batman running around, or where an actual Batman running around who isn't Bruce is the biggest clue that convinces him that the Mad Hatter's machine-induced fantasy can't be real. Similarly, in this episode, there's a clever use of established voice actors to make the point in Superman's dream as well. At one point, when Jor-El walks off screen, he continues his lines, but his voice switches to that of Mike Farrell as Jonathan Kent. That both Bruce and Clark are offered the peaceful lives they crave so much, but willingly reject them because they know deep in their souls that they can never put down the burden of power and responsibility that comes with being Batman and Superman, always reminds me of Arnold Rimmer from Red Dwarf. Okay. In the episode Better Than Life, the crew tries out a virtual reality game where they can have everything they could ever want, but Rimmer being Rimmer, his fantasy starts out as him having the toast of the Admiralty with a gorgeous, insatiable girlfriend, then rapidly turns to him trapped in a loveless marriage with a platoon of unruly children, and ends with the whole crew buried up to their necks in sand and smeared with honey for the fire ants. The game is responding to Rimmer's own unshakable faith in the universe being unfairly rigged against him at every turn. He wails, "I just can't accept nice things happening to me." It's played far more seriously, but this is pretty much the same belief that allows Bruce and Clark to resist and escape from the dreams of their perfect lives. Deep down, they'll always question that they really deserve them. Yes, that was a very nice way of connecting some of my favourite shows. Well done. Luke says, Wonder Woman would beat me and I wouldn't resist. We all know it's ungentlemanly to strike a lady in anger, but the rules are somewhat fuzzier on the subject of tickling her until she turns purple. So I would gladly challenge Wonder Woman to a tickle fight that I had no hopes of winning. This is because my own special lady with her long black hair and mesmerizing blue eyes looks a bit like Diana, and she remains the undefeated tickle fight champion of our relationship. I read some years ago, around the time of Watchmen cable series starting, that the only understandable explanation for the way that Warner Brothers was handling the rights issue was that the fate of Warner Brothers Corporation was dependent on some kind of infernal machine, some arcane engine deep beneath their HQ building that is fueled by Alan Moore's rage. Yes, that is perfectly plausible. I'm starting to find myself agreeing with Alan Moore on the matter of disliking all the endless copying of Watchmen. Yes, deconstructing the superhero was a neat trick, but you could only do it once before you should really be expected to have an idea of what, if anything, you think it should be reconstructed back into. I've read multiple stories in the wake of Watchmen, like Marvel's Supreme Power and New Universal, or J. Michael Straczynski's Rising Stars, that ask the question, what if superheroes lived in our real world? And the answer always turns out to be a really miserable and gloomy time for everyone involved. I've also always thought that the trend for grim and gritty superhero stories only works in certain situations and shouldn't be applied uniformly across the genre. Characters with no fantastical elements like Punisher, Green Arrow, and maybe Batman can be done in a grounded and realistic style, even though it excludes many interesting foes like Poison Ivy, Mr. Freeze, and any Clayface after the Golden Age one. But trying to apply it across the board leads to madness, like wanting to do a Superman story where he never wears the iconic costume and never flies. Pause to stare pointedly at Tim Burton and the makers of Smallville. It's such an epic mismatch of subject matter and approach that I've always compared it to sculpting a still life. Yes, why bother if you're going to strip it of all of its imaginative parts? RE Big Mikey P's apparent endorsement of Richard Nixon and dismissal of the Chinese. I can never tell when he's having us on or being sarcastic. It's tragically inherent in the medium of internet written communication to make it difficult to intuit the author's intended tone, like when you read my Tudor period, as if I was being incredulous when I meant it in a I never thought of that before way. Maybe he and I should record our comments. That way, I also wouldn't have to find find ways to spell the names of dwarf planets and Babylon 5 characters phonetically. Well, as you can see, I'm struggling with regular words at the moment. So, yeah, maybe you should. Big Mikey P may not see the appeal of Lashina, but after seeing her in a similar shiny black vinyl bodysuit to be Hela from the Thor Ragnarok film for Halloween before last, I can no longer see Lashina without thinking of My Special Lady. I'm still trying to talk her into going to conventions together, cosplaying as the Penguin and Catwoman. The Panto Dame, being the smuttiest character, it should be mentioned, is part of the risque humour that goes over the kid's head without saying anything that's technically inappropriate. Like Mrs. Slocum from Are You Being Served, who once asked a neighbour over the phone to look in on her sick cat by saying, "Open the mail slot and tell me if you can see my pussy." I think another reason that the UK has fewer people enraged about drag is that I've noticed in a lot of some staples of British comedy, notably Monty Python, Benny Hill, and Canadian Relations, the Kids in the Hall, quite often in the form of men dressed as screechy-voiced old ladies, so it isn't automatically perceived as being of a sexual nature. The Monty Python crew only kept Carol Cleveland around for rare sketches when an actual attractive woman was required, and putting Graham Chapman in a dress and a wig wouldn't cut it. And more on Big Mikey P not wanting to get into Doctor Who, it may be best that he doesn't. A friend of mine, author-artist Paul Hanley, creator of the comics Miss Medusa's Monstrous Menagerie, The Unthinkables and Wasp Hustler, available from Laguna Studios, check him out and tell him Zach's brother Mike sent you, said today of recent episodes that it's surprising how often a villain tries to absorb the entirety of the Doctor's memories, only to die screaming as the sheer enormity of all of it all irretrievably shatters their mind in a rapid-fire montage of clips from across the show's 60-plus years of history. It's almost, he said, as if the show itself was trying to warn you that watching every episode, reading every novel and comic, and listening to every audio story is not humanly possible. And even if it is, trying to do so may just kill you. Tell that to my father. Even the TARDIS wiki page and Lance Parkin, author of the history book of the Doctor Who universe that doubles in size every new updated edition, have thrown up their hands in despair at the very idea of keeping up with it all. I tried once and I got about halfway through the 8th Doctor novel range before the vastness of the attempt broke me, leaving me the haunted, burnt-out shell of a man I am today. If Big Mikey P were to approach the subject with the same intent of making it all fit together as seamlessly as the Star Wars extended universe, I fear he would be found shortly afterwards with what's left of his overwhelmed brain dripping out of his left ear like a melted smoothie. And in closing, as the Doctor said, the way I see it, every life is a pile of good things and bad things. The good things don't always soften the bad things, but vice versa. The bad things don't always spoil the good things and make them unimportant. I am honoured that Mary considers all of us in the comment section to be part of her pile of good things.
Of course. But there's one thing I will say about your comment. You said something about your partner being like the winner of the tickles. If Luke ever tickled me, I don't know why, but I think a lot of people have it. I hate tickles. Like, I hate them. Like, I get these movements in my body that just like will hit you if it was bad as a child as well. I remember it's one of the first memories that I could remember. My grandpa had come in and he brought this dog with him, and the dog he was handing me the dog, and the dog was, I believe it was a Maltese, because I've gone back and looked at pictures of this dog, or it's like a Maltese, and it literally tickled the side of my neck, and my arm went like a punch, because my grandpa was standing right beside me, and I ended up hitting my grandpa in the face. The dog's name was Termite, by the way, and it was beautiful. But yeah, I don't know why that reminded me of that, but yeah. So you're done for the day, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I've lost the will to live, I'm afraid. Not because the comments are bad, but because I'm unwell and Mary's forced me to go through this. She hits me. She goes, right now you can hear it. Help!
That's not me.
No, it's not. I'm joking.
My psoriasis won't let me hit anybody.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just full of cold still, and I'm on the tail end of it. But talking at length kind of just drains me. But anyway, it's fine.
I need some orange juice.
Yeah, I do actually. I'm going to have some after this.
Orange juice. I don't know why when I was sick, people would always suggest Gatorade, orange juice, or 7-Up. For some reason, not Sprite. Just it had to be 7-Up. And I asked the doctor once about it, and they were like, "Yeah, orange juice will be fine for you if it's not from concentrate, but 7-Up, I have no idea." I was like, "Is it because it's bubbly?" And he was like, "I don't know." He was a grumpy old thing, that doctor.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So all that's left now, Mary, is to talk about next time.
So next time, I'm going to spice it up a little bit.
All right.
I am going to have us talk about episodes that should have been censored.
Okay. And what?
And that's just in all of the DCAU.
Okay, so you're going to talk about moments that took place that you're surprised weren't censored, or you think that they were so terrible that they should not have been included?
No, like as in like we're surprised they could do that joke or something like that. But yeah, I think that'll be a good episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. And if you've got this far, wow. Cool. No Gilgamesh today. Gilgamesh is probably stealing Apollo's spot on the rug to get that little bit of sunshine they keep following. So, I don't know what else to say today other than thank you so much for listening, and I am going to go finish painting the bathroom, I think.
All right, thanks everyone.
I love you guys. Have a really great day.